Alright, what's up guys? So in today's video we are going to take a look at Bitcoin. I'm going to show you my complete overview of what I think Bitcoin is going to do in the next couple of days. So let's jump right into the chart and take a look at BTC USD on Binance. Alright, so here's BTC USDT on Binance, and as you guys can see, we are now inside this high time frame resistance area around 12k. We are right inside, right on the 786, the upper part of the RLC. And before we go and dive deeper into the price action analysis, I want to give a huge shout out and a big thank you to Prime XPT for helping me out and sponsoring me on this channel. As you guys probably already know, I do most of my trading, especially on Bitcoin, on Prime XPT, and I also trade the forex markets, gold and silver and that stuff on Prime XPT with using my Bitcoin as collateral. Like seriously guys, now when Bitcoin is high time frame bullish, it's obviously you want to hold Bitcoin, right? And on Prime XPT you can hold your Bitcoin as collateral and trade the legacy markets or the crypto market with BTC as a collateral. So you're gonna go up in USD while Bitcoin goes up, and you're gonna increase your BTC holdings while winning the trades and your actual trading, right? So it's a win-win situation. And if you want to try out the absolute best exchange out there for trading Bitcoin and the legacy markets together, check out the link in the scrolling text to the left of me, right here. And the link is also in the description. If you use the promo code LIBS42 bonus, they will actually give you a 50% increase on your first deposit. So definitely worth checking it out. And I have a special little surprise that has or has not maybe something to do with the co-vesting module on Prime XP. So if you're interested in that, register using the link and use the promo code LIBS bonus, and you'll get all the necessary information about what's to come. All right, so we got Bitcoin on Binance here. We're gonna start out by taking a look at the weekly time frame. As always, I like to do my top-down approach when basically trading anything, when shorting anything, when doing any type of TA on any price chart. I like to start off with the higher time frames and then slowly zoom down into smaller time frames. And usually the time frames that I use mostly is the weekly, the daily, the 4-hour, and the hourly. Most of my trades are based on 4-hour. But even if I'm trading most likely on the 4-hour, it's very, very important to know what the higher time frames are doing, what's the high time frame bias, right? All right, so Bitcoin on the weekly, we have just this beautiful breakout. The 1, 2, 3 weeks ago, right? 3 or 4 weeks ago, we had this beautiful breakout where we broke above the 10 to 10.5k resistance area. It's now support, or it should be support because it was previously resistance, right? This started a you guys might remember what happened when we broke this level. Pretty much everyone became extremely bullish, right? If you're on crypto Twitter, you're probably noticing a lot of bullish tweets lately. That's basically because breaking above this area, and if you guys have been following me for a while, you know that when I was streaming, price was trading in this range, or even back down here, all I could talk about was the fact that we were below this high time frame resistance. The trend is down, the weekly trend is down. There's no point of being bullish until we actually break above this area. That happened, and like I said back then, I was going pretty heavily into Bitcoin when break above this level. I am now quite heavily in Bitcoin, but does that mean that Bitcoin will continue upwards? Well, it's actually quite likely that Bitcoin will continue upwards because of the strong bullish momentum. We also have to consider one very, very important thing here, is that this is untested support, right? So we broke above this area and it's now on the higher time frames untested. I mean, if you look at the daily, you might remember this crazy dump that we had on the 2nd of August. We had this crazy dump, and the low of this dump was actually 10,518, right? And the high of this box right here is 10,500. So arguably, if we reclaim the 12K area, and I've been talking about this a lot, right? We have a potential rounded retest of the untested support here, because I do not really consider this to be the retest, right? Because even if you're looking on the hourly, it's just not really beautiful price action right here. It's just, it's not right, right? This is not the retest you want to see. You want to see a rounded nice retest on like the daily, the 4-hour, with price actually, price structure needs to make sense. This was just a crazy dump, right? So I'm not really going to view that as a proper retest. This, however, if we come down and rounded retest like this, that's going to look more like what I'm looking for, right? Not this, right? That's too fast. It's not really logical, right? It needs to make sense. I'll be talking about this potential rounded retest down to 10K to 10.5K area. But if we reclaim the 12K area, that would mean that this rounded retest is most likely invalidated, right? And we are most likely not going to see a rounded retest of that level until we see a bigger correction. Right, so we go to the daily, and this is actually very likely a I mean, I remember when Bitcoin were breaking above 12K, so this level right here is 12K. We had the daily candle closing above and the other daily candle closing below, a typical clean fake out on Bitcoin, right? So I remember telling you guys that if we see a proper reclaim of 12K, then it's likely that the rounded retest of 10 to 10.5K is not really in the books anymore, right? It's not really active. That idea is not really valid anymore. But we're not really seeing a reclaim of the 12K area. We're seeing a pretty picture perfect fake out on a daily, right? So the retest of the 10 to 10.5K area is still in the books, right? It's still very much likely because we haven't retested 12K. But there's a couple of other reasons why I'm not ready right now to be looking at the retest lower. Because if you look at the 4-hour, you have this one. Let's make this white. That one. Alright, so this is the range that we're trading inside, right? So this is the range that we got. This is the range EQ area. And the most important part right here is this, right? Let's see. We got the RLC measured from the local RLC. So I like to call this the local RLC because it's the RLC of the last local up move. I mean, obviously this whole move is an up move, right? But this is a local up move, this is a local up move, and this is local up move, right? You can actually check the RLC on any of these, right? And you'll probably find something. So go right here to the top up here. What do you see? Well, you see kind of price kind of consolidating here and before moving higher, right? You make another RLC here using, let's say, this low to the high up here, and the price, well, bouncing closely to the RLC or closely to the 618. If you use instead the low here and ignore that wick, you will see that price is nicely consolidating inside the RLC before moving higher, right? Definitely makes sense to be looking at RLC, and that's why I have the RLC marked out on the chart right here. RLC is right above range EQ, and we have the trend line we had the perfect retest of the trend line confluent with the 618, and you also have the daily 21 EMA down inside this area, which is now up here. To go down back in 4 hour 11543, perfect. You see price now again coming down to test that trend line. So what I'm trying to say here, even though we are at high time frame resistance, which is 12k, the area between 12k and 12 point, something like that, this red box resistance, right, something with range high, because of the fact that we are actually holding the trend line, we are bouncing off the RLC. I don't really have any reason right now to bearish. And I like the fact that we have the daily 21 EMA kind of holding price up very nicely inside this range, which makes me feel that, well, it makes me think that we have so many different strong confluences here that, and with the 21 EMA kind of in the middle of all the confluences, I think we can use, at least for the next 2 or 3 days, we can definitely use the daily 21 EMA as our, invalidation, right? If you want that as a price, we are probably going to be looking at the area between the trend line where price is currently retesting right now and the 21 EMA. That's going to be our invalidation area, right? But even with that as our invalidation level, it's quite tight, right? So the area that's most interesting for me to watch is this, right? You got the range EQ area right here. That's the range EQ area, and you have these lows, the bounce of the range EQ. Lose that area, and we are most likely going to see that retest of the 10k to 10.5k area, right? And right now, what we're seeing right now is a bullish market structure in the 4 hour. We're seeing higher highs and higher lows. There's no reason to become bearish. There's no reason to become bearish. Not even a 1 hour close above the trend line. So the trend line is really holding very, very nicely. But it kind of looks like it wants to break down now. So it kind of looks like it wants to break down right now. But let's see what happens, right? But if we break down here, that's our first sign of move to the downside. I would probably judge it by looking at the 4 hour and waiting for 4 hour open and closes below the trend line. But then again, we have this very strong area right here, and if we put on the setups here, you know that I've talked about in our bird nest webinars, we've talked about a potential setup here. While you want to go long on the balance of the RLC that we got just here, right? And that one is looking like it's playing out pretty nicely now. And if you're in this trade, I would probably recommend you guys let it run, because it's very likely that we are going to bounce off the trend line here and have a move upwards. So honestly, for me, there's no reason for me to think that Bitcoin will not break out here. The only reason why I might be hesitant in calling a breakout here is the fact that we have a high time frame untested support below. And it usually what happens is when you break a level to the upside and this strong of a level, especially when the level is this strong, you usually see a retrace down to the breakout level. I think that covers it pretty nicely with my views on Bitcoin. So right now I'm still heavily in Bitcoin, and I'm gonna be watching this market structure here break down before I open up any potential shorts. But the short needs to be, what I'm looking for, it's probably going to be a bearish retest of range EQ, because I don't want to short the trend line, because you have the RLC right here and the daily 21 EMA, and I'm not going to short the daily 21 EMA because it's right above the range EQ. What I would short, however, is a bearish retest of this potential resistance area, right? That's probably what I would be looking in terms of a short if this market structure breaks down. Let's see if we can take another chart. Sometimes I like to look at only price action. I don't really care about anything else, but let's see. We got the trend line here. Kind of obvious that we're creating higher highs and higher lows. This could be. So where do we have a decent support area? Well, obviously we have a very strong support area right here. That's the one. I think this makes sense. So that's a very important area, and it's also right in the range EQ area, right? So in the middle of this whole range, and it's a significant support area. If we lose that, I do think we're most likely going back down to 10.5 with a big profit somewhere down here. This is most likely going to be a potential short, right? What you would want to do here, and why I'm looking at this level as a short and not up here, is because shorting above this level means that you're shorting into the RLC. The long RLC is an area you're supposed to long, right? So shorting here means you're shorting into the long RLC, into daily 21 EMA. Not really great, right? So could be looking at, depends on how price action looks when you actually break this level. But I'm thinking, well, that's the short long setup. That's so something like this, right? I would probably be looking at something like this, and I would take some profits here, and I would let this one run, right? You can even have your profit taking areas, you know, all the way down here, right? And I would close my short down here because of the fact that you have such a strong support area down here. You would not want to be short into high time frame, right? So that's what I'm thinking of Bitcoin right now. Bitcoin is still very, very bullish, and I'm looking for more upside unless we break the current market structure, the downside, and breaking that we're pretty much breaking down right now. But as you can see here, we had a nice little fake out on that one here. So I would still view the RLC, the long RLC, as an area to buy. So as long as we hold the long RLC, we're holding the 21 EM and a daily, I would not really care that much of this trend line. Alright guys, that's it. Thanks for watching the video. Remember to like and subscribe for more content like this. I know that I haven't been that active in the last couple of days, weeks, but I you know, it's been a lot of work with the business and everything, but I will begin posting videos regularly very short. All right, take care guys, and see you guys next time.